thought my parents loved me. But when I turned 18 years of age, they kicked me out of the house without even a warning. Well, the joke's on them, because I had to fight tooth and nail to survive, but I made it. And oh boy, did I make it better than ever. Because 4 years later, I'm very successful, and guess who came calling for me to come back? Begging, saying they're in a financial crisis. Well, guess what? I don't care.
If there were an award for worst parents in the world, surely mine would win over those who raised terrorists or something like that. Let's see. I understand very well that my family has never been of vast financial means, but taking your daughter out of the house when she was just coming of age is not something you hear about or should hear about every day. I'll give you more context because I feel like I'm going too fast. My name's Emily. I just turned 18 just a week ago, and I'm writing this from my friend Donna's house because this kind of situation is beyond me. I think in the little I have mentioned, it would come as no surprise when I revealed that I was a mistake in my parents' life. They had me young, around my age, and decided to be together because of their weird conservative values, where the church, the family, the American way of life, all that rotted their minds to live by the motto, man and woman should be together, have a family, and be productive members of society. A stigma they created in their heads that are currently affecting me. Oh, I laugh at the past part. Be productive members of society, because they've been nothing but a burden to the planet. They have not even been able to hold a single damn steady job, and they generate more expenses than income. Something that frankly is very annoying when you live in constant fear of not knowing how you'll get into college. Almost every parent I know always has a life plan for their kids, but mine would get very defensive if I touched on what they were going to do with me in the future. I knew we weren't in a good place financially, but I worried about how I, a girl who always got straight A's on her evaluations, could make her future count. I tried to apply for scholarships, but for some strange reason, I was not accepted to any of them. There was one that said they could offer me an allowance if I lived in Oregon, and I don't know anyone out there who could take me in. My life so far was a constant stress, waiting for what would turn out to be the least desirable day of my life, my 18th birthday party. Believe me, since I was 16, I've been afraid of what might happen at the party. Of course, at first, it was just teenage nerves, like the guy I like might go with somebody else, or that my parents will embarrass me in front of everyone, but no. Do you know what they came up with? I'll tell you how the day started. First, I wake up, and my mom prepares my favorite breakfast, an egg sandwich with tuna. My dad does a bad imitation of someone forgetting his daughter's birthday, but I immediately tell him it's not funny. They ask me if I have anything planned for the evening because they want to surprise me. I was already terrified. The truth is that my friends and I were planning something, but due to logistical problems and, budget, mostly on my part, it did not happen. I admit that I was partly to blame. They told me not to worry because they would invite me to everything, from the cake to the tiniest cup of water. That sounds nice, but I'm not used to preferential treatment even on my birthday. In retrospect, I should have accepted all that they had for the outing, as it would have saved me a lot of what would end up happening that day. I don't know how much I regret now. I had a relatively normal day during the day. Received messages on social media as expected with happy birthday wishes. However, the pinnacle of the issue started around 6 in the evening, when my parents and I were at the table around the birthday cake. We sang and I blew out candles and they clapped for me. It was the sound of beast before the attack of the prey. Here's what they said to me. They repeated that speech so many times over the next 3 hours that I almost knew it by heart. Darling, you know very well that we love you and that we have spent all this life trying to give you the life you deserve. You came into our life by surprise, but we trust you can understand that having you has been the most rewarding experience that we've ever had, right? We had you about the same age that you're turning today. That's why we want to give you something that, when you understand its symbolism, you will know that we wish you the best in life. And do you know what I got? In what mind, in what body, in what soul is it possible to do that to your daughter? Their excuse was that since they had a disappointment when they were young, it gave them enough strength to get out of me, and for me to understand the situation. They are not yet in their 40s, and I understand trying to make up for all the time they, quote, lost with me, but this feels awful. In that sense, I would have preferred to have been gotten rid of when I was a baby, if so much damage had been done to them. Now, I write this not knowing what to do, with no home, being kicked out, and nothing to my name, because I have the worst night of my life that day when I was told the next day that I had to vacate everything. Not even in my worst nightmares did I imagine something like this. Having to run out of my own house just because my parents want to take their frustrations out on me is a level that has no comparison. I hated them. I hated everything, my life, my home, the concept of family I had until then, which in itself was not the best, now became total garbage. I'm shaking and crying, not knowing what I'll do tomorrow. I mean, I have no experience in anything. Just coming out of high school until recently, I don't even know what tomorrow will bring. I just hope I can have a halfway decent life in the next few days. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. Oh boy. So, it looks like OP was kicked out of her house at the fresh age of 18. But we do have some updates to hop into to see exactly what's going on with this family. Here we go. Update number 1. I don't know how I should begin this. I guess by saying hello. It's been almost 4 years since I wrote the previous text, and to say that my life has changed is an absolute understatement. For years now, around the time of my birthday, I felt nostalgic and eager to resume writing, but I always put obstacles and excuses in my way to not reply here, saying that I was busier than usual and ended up putting it on hold. At least until now. I felt brave enough to be able to tell you what happened after the fateful birthday when my parents took me out of the house and out of their lives completely. After that, and as much pain as it is for me to say it, I was living in a flop house place, resorting to my friend's house from time to time, and several problems arose back then because of the same thing, as I would not tell anyone about what I was going through. On many occasions, my friends would let me stay in their homes without knowing that they were sheltering a homeless person. With my life hanging in the balance, if they said no, I don't know if I would have survived. At halftime, I decided to look for small jobs to help me get by. It makes me feel so bad to tell all this, to the point of almost crying. To imagine myself, such a young girl in such an adverse situation seems so absurd to me. At no time did I keep in touch with my parents. I won't say that there weren't moments when I wanted to confront them for all the evil that they did to me, but a month after I was in such a precarious situation, I made myself an oath, a slogan by which I would govern myself on them, without failing for a moment, and I quote you. If your world abandoned you, then it was not your real world. I don't even remember why I started saying this motto, but it served me well until now. They also had no interest in even knowing about my whereabouts or whether I was alive or not. I assumed that at the very least they would be writing me, calling me, or at least monitoring the activity that I've been doing since then, but so far, the most contact I've had with them was when they were on the list of customers waiting to send in their purchases. Don't worry, I'll tell you about that. My first thoughts when I was kicked out of the house was, what am I going to do now? Being adrift, I had to look for things that did not involve a lot of efforts or investment, so I hit upon internet product sales. At first it was difficult, as I had no idea how to run that kind of business. I had many failures as an apprentice, and after some time I was able to make a name for myself in the area. I earned enough to rent a small room in an apartment that I shared with other guys. being the only one who wasn't studying at the university. Thank goodness one of them was studying psychology, because it helped me not feel so bad about not being a professional. My psychological stability has been hanging by a thread for a long time, but now that I'm more stable, I'm much better. I'm writing this new update to mention a situation that happened regarding my birthday. My last birthday. I received a message in the mail from my parents, and I don't know how they got my business email, but I got a message from them saying they needed to talk to me. They gave me their new phone numbers, and I started to get back in touch, but in a formal way without any feelings. But to conclude with my situation, I'm fine. I managed to move to a place and a little more secluded, and although yeah, it's really small, at least I no longer have to share it with others. The company where I work is one of the largest nationwide, and I'm a sales supervisor, intending to be able to buy a car next month. However, I feel that this story has an unpleasant twist because of one of my work colleagues. I'm not going to say his name, I'll just say that it's been a rock in my shoe for a long time now. He's one of those people who envy success and will do anything to make you fail if you're more successful. It's happened on many occasions in the past, and I feel it'll continue to happen until I change jobs or he gets fired. I know it will be soon because his job is not the best in the company. Anyways, I believe he was the one who gave my contact to my parents, and after finding out about my situation years ago, something I've tried to keep private all the time, partly out of embarrassment and security issues. And that's how my parents decided to get in touch again, saying that I should attend a party of one of my dad's friends next week. You have to see what guts these people have. The audacity. I mean, they abandoned their daughter to her fate. They don't communicate with her for years, and they don't even care how she's doing or if she's even still alive. And they don't congratulate her on a birthday, huh? And yet, they pretend to come over like it's nothing just to invite me to a so-called friends party. What a humiliating situation. Even if they should be ashamed of themselves, I highly doubt that's the case. Come to think of it, in their speech, they also talked about how proud they were of my income, and that I was free to bring a gift to the friend of theirs, as they had some gifts for me as well. I don't understand what they intended with this message, but I admit I'm very curious now. My curiosity has piqued. Let's face it. They are my parents after all, and although I learned years ago that I should divert myself of my relationship with them, I feel I should at least see them one last time so they know the true success I've managed to achieve. Unlike them, well, I'll be mentioning the progress of this story soon, so stay close. Update number 2. Wow. What comes easy goes easy, I would say. I've been through my bad times in my life, but I feel that every cycle has its beginning, development, and the end. And at this point, I want to believe that I've reached my end. I'll tell you what happened at my dad's friend's party now. They invited me after receiving my contact information from my coworker, and they could not help but get excited when they saw me arrive, thinking I would not show up in front of them. Not such a far-fetched thought. And when we saw each other, they showered me with compliments and hugs, something I was not used to at all, much less from them. They invited me over to the birthday guy's house where I was proudly introduced. Our daughter, the businesswoman. I could not have been more disgusted because otherwise I would have thrown up, and I am not exaggerating when I say that all the people present were introduced to me with such a title. My father spent more time with the birthday boy while I stayed at the table with my mom. The only redeeming point was that she decided to start the conversation, asking me question after question after question about my current situation. Things turned sour, though, when she threw out the worst possible question, and I quote you this. "Oh, how much do you make these days, honey?" And I say it was one of the worst because it would prompt me to answer, "Enough." Well, to then take a long sip of sangria. She seemed a little offended, but bit her tongue and decided to continue. She said that they were currently going through a delicate situation where they were even considering divorce. This was enough to make me a little interested in what she had to say. After a few moments, the most humiliating moment of the evening occurred. I assume it to the fact that my father was already a little drunk, but it took everyone's attention after a speech from the birthday guy, which, by the way, was equally drunk, saying how his, quote, highly successful daughter would be coming back to them after years of not showing any signs of life. Well, that's when I absolutely lost it. I stood up from my table, clearly outraged, but my mom tried to grab my arm. I let go abruptly, catching the attention of everybody present, and I could not make them out. But I knew they were whispering in front of me, saying what a bad daughter I was and how selfish I was being. I took charge of the situation and blurted out these exact words. If you think that these two people are good, you better think twice. Real parents don't take their daughter out of the house as soon as she hits 18. It was then that the looks changed on the face of everybody, and they were upset and reproachful against my parents. My dad began to utter incoherent ramblings, which only made him look horrible. My mother was beginning to cry, but I raged on. I don't want anything to do with these people who have never cared about sending a message in 4 years. And with that, I bid a goodbye, but not before wishing congratulations again to the birthday boy, who had lost his drunkenness almost instantly and became sober. Just now, I have an inbox full of messages from my parents, but I understand that would no longer be my problem. I just know that I have to focus on my stuff, but with that little reminder, I left them. Surely people won't stop reminding them of what an excellent example of parenting they are. That is, only if other people decide to continue to talk to them. I wouldn't do it, and I know because until then, I don't do it. And it's not in my plans to ever contact them again.
Alright, so let's discuss this story in detail, because a lot of commenters in the comment section are saying, hey, I understand that you're basically mad at your parents and you want to go no contact with them. That's completely fine. But the fact that you decided to play into their game and just be basically petty, according to the comments, by coming back to the birthday boy's party and basically making it a spectacle, embarrassing your parents, even embarrassing you a little, is a little too much and definitely on the petty side. So guys, I want to come to you and ask you, do you agree with those commenters, or do you think a little bit of petty revenge was necessary? Drop your thoughts in the comment section down below. Guys, that's going to be all the content for today. I hope you enjoyed today's story. If you did, go ahead and smash that like button, and if you want more daily videos, the best way to get them is super simple. Subscribe to the channel, click those bell notification icons. It'll always message you when a new video comes out so you don't miss any. I have the sloppiest step-siblings ever, and my stepmother is demanding that I share my space with them. Well, little does she know, I have a trick up my sleeve.
Hey everyone, I'm a relatively new member of the group and wanted to introduce myself and just explain my story. I'm 17 male, have had a pretty difficult few weeks, and it's becoming quite hard to get through life. I wanted to see if maybe I can find some support through this group. My father recently passed away suddenly in a hit-and-run accident. He was crossing the streets to go to his car after finishing work at the office and was struck by a driver going 60 miles per hour in a 30. He luckily died on impact, saving him from any misery and pain, which is the only blessing to come out of the whole situation. Finding out that he was gone was the single worst experience of my life. The police came to our house where I was waiting for him to come home from work and give me the news. Well, the rest of the night's a blur to me. My brain switched off after I heard those horrible words, and I somehow got into my bed, and I know that my stepmother must have been called to look after me, as she was there when I woke up in the morning. My stepmother and I have not been able to find a way to get along with each other in the few months since she married my father. Part of it is I feel, because, I don't know, just some resentment towards her for not being my real mother. My mother left my father and me when I was 4 years old, saying that she never wanted to be a mother and that it would be better for me to just not have her. I have a lot of conflicting emotions about my mom, but she was wrong in saying that leaving me would be better for me in the long run. I've been without a mother for most of my life, and the new one I just got is the least maternal person I've ever met. My father started dating my stepmother, I'll call her Janet, about 2 years ago when I was 15. I remember the night that he told me he'd met someone and it was getting very serious. I could not comprehend that he had been able to move on from my mom, and after meeting Janet, I was even more confused. She's one of the coldest and least affectionate people I've ever met, even with her own children. I could never understand what my father saw in her to make him marry her, but after maturing a bit, I think he may have just been lonely. Everyone wants someone to share their lives with. After my father passed, my stepmother and her 2 children moved into the home that we shared, and I'm not sure why they haven't moved in before, given how long they've been together. My father had just told me when I'd asked that time and space to be apart makes all relationships stronger. Though, I think maybe it's just because Janet's pretty insufferable. But that's just my opinion. Either way, I wish they'd never stepped foot into my home. My step-siblings, a twin boy and a girl the same age as me, are absolute pigs. They're rude, have no manners, and they're filthy. My beautiful and clean home was covered in clothes, food, and everything else within a week of them moving in. They're also just very unkind people, teasing me about my mother leaving when I was a kid, though, of course, they never say anything like that in front of their mom, and they know that I'd never tell her. She'd never believe me anyways. Janet does not like me at all, and the feeling is completely mutual. Well, to cut a long story short, since my new family has moved into my home, I've been absolutely miserable. Janet moved into my father's room and completely ruined it with her silly fluffy decor, and the filthy twins have turned the spare room into a pigsty. Janet refuses to either properly discipline her children or hire someone to clean up after them, so my kitchen is covered in dirty dishes, overflowing trash cans, and old food. My home is disgusting and it's so upsetting, but why should I clean up after them when they should know to do it themselves? At this point, my father's been gone for 4 weeks, and every day's feeling harder than the last. Janet does not seem to be upset at all about losing him, and when she or the twins notice me crying or spending time on my own to think about him, they tell me to man up, get over it. I don't understand how some people can be so insensitive and cruel, especially to someone who is now part of their family. I'm just trying to get through the days as well as I can. I'm on summer vacation, so I don't even have school to distract me, though I've been trying to prepare myself for senior year by doing some of my reading in advance. I'm hoping that going back to school in a few weeks will give me something to look forward to, and a goal to get me out of the house. Until then, I'm just here, grieving my father and grieving my home. These people have completely taken it over, and they don't seem to care at all that I've just lost the most important person in my life. I just feel completely alone. I'm hoping that someone in this group can give me some sort of advice on how to manage my grief alongside my new family. If you have any ideas on how to deal with the situation, please do reach out, as I could use all the support I can get right now. Thank you for reading. Update number 1. Hey everyone, I want to say a huge thank you to all that sent me lovely messages after I told my story. The support you guys have given me through my screen is more than I've gotten from Janet in the past few months. It's been since I lost my father, so please believe me when I say that it's the only thing getting me through this. A lot of you said to try to find my father's last will and testament, as I'd explained that without one, all my father's belongings reverted to Janet, his wife. I took your advice on board and started searching everywhere to see if I could find it. I even tried to interrogate Janet and her horrible children to see if they knew where it was, but were keeping it from me. They were adamant that they had no idea where it was, though it was definitely possible, and they knew all along were keeping it from me. They would definitely have a reason to do that. This leads me to my big news. I found the will. I'd spent weeks looking absolutely everywhere, all over the house and at my father's workplace, and I was about ready to give up when I remembered that the attic in our house could be accessed by a small ladder in a cramped hallway. I'd remembered my father boarding up the staircase to the attic as a child, and I think due to some sort of accident I'd had while climbing up then. Since then, I'd always assumed that it was impossible to get into the attic until I came across the hatch in the ceiling. I climbed my way up and spent hours searching everywhere to find the will. I was able to find some of my own things from there when I was a child, which was lovely, and some of my mother's old clothes, which was painful, especially after losing my only other parent. After searching for the entire day, I finally came across a wooden chest that I'd never seen before. The things I found inside the chest were shocking, though the most important thing was the will. Alongside it, I found letters from my mother, dated back from shortly after my 12th birthday up until the most recent one was just in the last year, saying how much she missed me and that she'd love to be part of our lives again. This reveal completely threw me off, as I'd always assumed that my father had no contact with her after she left. Reading through the letters brought up some emotions that I'd buried deep inside after my mother left, though I made myself push them back down to be dealt with later, and at that moment, dealing with how I feel about my mother was not the priority, as emotional as it is. Finding the letters was totally shocking, and what also shocked me was that my father's will listed me as the beneficiary of everything he owned: his money, his assets, and lastly our house. I could not believe my eyes when I read this. Of course, this would only come into effect when I turn 18, but that's only 2 months away. If I own the house, then it means that I can make my stepmother and her children leave, and I can finally have some time to myself to grieve my father. I just started my senior year of high school about a month ago, and after that, I'm thinking about attending a local community college. I could live in my home while I do that, which I think would help me adjust to adult life. So, my plan is this. I'm going to suck it up and tolerate my new stepfamily's disgusting living habits and cruel nature for the next 60 days until I turn 18. I'm then going to go my father's lawyer and show him the will, so he can help me with getting my father's assets. I'm going to come into quite a bit of money due to my father's successful electric business, but I'll invest most of it so I can have some financial security in the future. Finding my father's will has truly been the blessing that I know will help me escape this nightmare I've been living in ever since I lost him. I owe this all to you who encouraged me to find it, and to every single one of you who sent me your love and support over the past few months. Reading through this many kind messages has been such a source of comfort for me, and I can't tell you how grateful I am. If you could keep sending the kindness to me over the next 2 months, until I'm able to claim my inheritance, I would really appreciate it. It's been and will continue to be difficult dealing with my home being trashed, and my character being attacked by those people for the past few months, but at least I know there's an end in sight. I'll keep my eyes on that goal. Until next time, thank you. Update number 2, 6 months later. Hey guys. I know some of you have been asking about how things ended up going with my stepmother, so I'm here to let you know. So 2 months after I found my father's will, naming me as the beneficiary of his house and finances, I finally turned 18 and inherited those assets. The day was quite a normal one, to be honest. Janet and my new siblings did not even realize what day it was, and so it treated me the same as they did every day, with disrespect. I won't lie to you. Having to sit and tolerate them in my house for the past few months was truly difficult. But I knew that if I got through it, I would be able to get on my own life and my own terms, and that's exactly what I'm doing. So, the day after my birthday, I met with my father's lawyer and showed him the will, telling him when and where I'd found it. He authenticated it and asked me what I'd like to do with my newfound fortune. As I said previously, I decided to invest most of the money as I have a part-time job that pays well and would like to give myself some security for the future. I did give myself some spending money though, of course, as the past year has really taken a toll on me, and I just wanted to be able to treat myself after everything was settled. My father's lawyer set the will into place, transferred the house into my name, and gave me a copy of the new deed, which did not take as long as I thought it would. Accessing the money would take a bit longer though, as he had to access my father's accounts, but he would get started on that after the house matter was settled. He asked me about my intentions with the money so that he could get everything sorted out behind the scenes and not bother me with any details. My father's lawyer is a very decent man, and I really appreciate everything that he's done for me. He came with me to the house to give the Janet news, and as I'd guessed that she would not accept it from me alone, turns out she did not accept it from him either. She even refused to leave the house even after seeing the new copy of the deed, so we had to call the police. And as she got herself very worked up and tried to get physical with me. Although, she was not able to get anywhere near me because of the lawyer. Janet and her children moved into a small apartment after I had them evicted, and I think they're still living there now, I don't know. She's tried to contact me numerous times since I've kicked her out, leaving these angry voicemails and sending threatening text messages, but I have no interest in speaking with her. She even admitted to the lawyer that she'd known where my father's will was, but had purposely not told me that I could access the attic so that I had nothing to use against her. I think she just wanted to marry my father because he had a lot of money, and he went along with it because he was tired of being alone after my mom left. Speaking of my mother, I've been considering writing to her at the address that she used on the letters that I found in my father's wooden chest up in the attic. According to those, she does not live very far from us, and I'm still trying to work up the idea, as I'm still so angry at her for just leaving me. I'm also grieving my father's death still, and the chaos that came along after it, so I'm not sure I'm even in the right mental headspace to be chasing down my long-lost mother. I'm not going to rush myself into anything. I'm just going to deal with the things as they come. It's been amazing having my home back after the way that my step-siblings treated it. I had to hire a whole team to deep clean the place after they left, as it was just too much for me to do. How about those two can make such a mess every day? I don't know, and not even care about it. I'll never understand, but you could not pay me to live anywhere near their vicinity again. I've got my home back to the pristine state it was before this horrible ordeal happened, and I'm going to keep it this way. Well, that's all I really have to say at the moment. I was able to get my home back from Janet, and I finally feel like I'm close to my dad again. I just want to take some time to deal with how I feel, especially as everything has happened so suddenly and I'm still so young. I miss my father and his love and guidance every day, so I need to try to figure out how to take care of myself, and I know I can do it though with some time. All of you have been my guardian angels throughout this whole mess, and I would not have been able to get through it without you. I hope you know how deeply grateful I am for your support. I feel like I've gained a new family here. Well, and truly cannot express how deeply grateful I am for every single message I've received. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for your kindness. I'll never forget it.